Welcome to City Circus, community created here on Shaw TV. I'm your host, Marty Gold. You may remember that during the civic election campaign, I actually ventured where I'd never gone before into the realm of school division politics and the race for trustees. And in particular, I focused on a blog post by Rod Rouge that discussed the influence of unions in the Winnipeg school division and how essentially the unions were in a position to put their might behind a campaign to essentially try to deliver 5 seats that would then control an enormous budget, and how undemocratic that was. And as well, I believe I used the Dan Lett column that outlined the concerns of not only the former Education Minister Nancy Allen, but the then Education Minister James Allen, about some of the tactics used by the NDP school trustees that were controlling the Winnipeg One School Division in going in camera, keeping things secret, not publishing material, not giving the public a chance to see the agenda ahead of time, etc. Conduct so bad that even the NDP on Broadway were lecturing the NDP over on Wall Street. Well, let's go to the illustration board to explain why I'm venturing back into these waters. Over on Facebook, Chris Broughton, who I happen to know from his paramedic side of the equation, he linked that tonight we're having a meeting and talking about transparency and accountability motions at the school division. And Suzanne Hrenyk, the former chair, made a comment, "For the record, there has always been transparency. Just because one trustee and a certain reporter said there wasn't doesn't make it gospel. What is unfortunate is that people weren't interested in attending meetings to find out what was discussed." So unbelievable was that comment in a thread I was participating in on Facebook. I thought, well, everybody knows what I think of Nick Martin, but certainly when he says he can't get information to do his job at the Free Press, I have no reason to doubt it. Even Dan Lett jumped into the fray and was critical of Suzanne Hrenyk and her chairmanship and this reign of secrecy. And here she is pretending the problem comes from 2 people with big mouths. Well, I guess I'm going to be the third one that's going to create a problem for those who favor that kind of behavior when your tax dollars are being spent. Mike Babinski joins me in the studio, and in line with many other public officials that have appeared on this program, you are also, as I learned, a fan of the program.
Yes.
And I know that I don't think we've ever physically met.
No, first time.
Yeah, come to think of it. Sponge hockey?
Yes.
From the old days?
25 years at Old X.
Yeah, in the late 80s.
The
Old X crowds.
Yes.
I didn't meet you then either. Somebody tried to recruit me one time. You were at the center of controversy last week because of your work on the school board and allegations that you have your agenda and that the agenda of those that you were trying to expose with documents, not with just wild accusations and fiction, but with proof that you know, they are the paragons of virtue and light in this society. So let's walk through firstly the stories in question. Now, the big controversy was in your letter to James Allen when he was minister. And when I read the details, I have to say, I was very disturbed. Here's your letter to James Allen when he was Minister of Education. And we covered some of this on the program, where the school division let students freeze while waiting outside last winter for up to an hour because the bus was late dozens of times. The complaints started in December. The routes were never changed. Students sat on the school bus for 1.5 hours in one direction each day in violation of the Public Schools Act. Then a school division representative told the Free Press in September of this year that drivers' pay was discussed behind closed doors after the division decided to end their relationship with the company that was contracted. When the school bus contract ended, there was never a public motion to take over the contract, to hire as school division employees the drivers and management of that company, to give a $2 an hour raise to about 100 people back in May 2014 before they were even hired as school division employees, and to purchase 20 school buses for $2 million. That is something that I did cover on this program. Your letter to the minister stating, before any disclosure was made to the trustees, this was kept a secret from the public. Now, Mike, what I didn't realize was the background to when you brought it forward, that you made a motion in June of 2014 that you would be putting this on the next agenda. And the motion indicated that you wanted the school division to investigate in particular the danger that was posed to those children who were left out in the cold, and I guess also sitting on the bus for that long, in violation of the Public Schools Act. And that motion passed.
No, that I gave a notice of motion, and it was removed from the minutes.
Yeah, okay, so this is, all right, so you gave a notice of motion, there was no vote to accept it, you were just giving notice.
That's right, that I'd be speaking about it 2 weeks later.
So the letter that Mike Babinski sent to James Allen, the notice of motion was accepted at the meeting. Okay, so it wasn't a vote, but it was accepted.
Yes.
Okay. The concern you brought forward was removed from the record and removed from the minutes of the meeting. So the minutes for the June 2nd meeting were altered, and the notice of motion I made to investigate, or for a motion to investigate, was removed. Tell the audience about that.
That's correct. That's what happened.
Because in communist countries, we expect records of meetings to be altered.
That's right. When you look back in history, you'd want to know what happened that evening. And it was removed like it never happened. And I was standing up for kids that were freezing on corners for up to an hour during the coldest winter in over 100 years in Manitoba. And this happened many, many times. Kids were on the buses on a good day for an hour and a half. So if the bus was late 15 or 20 minutes, you would tack that on top of the hour and a half. And again, that's in contravention of the Public Schools Act. Schools were given 5 years to comply. This was in the 6th year. So when I brought this out to investigate, the people at the Winnipeg School Division decided to put it behind closed doors and to remove the record that we even spoke about it in public.
But isn't removing the record of something that is put forward by elected officials in a public meeting, isn't that, dare I say, a criminal offense? Because it's altering an official government document.
You could, yes, you could go that way. Absolutely. I don't know. But it's out there so much.
Well, wait. Here, let me help the audience, not so much help Mike. Imagine if something was said in Hansard in the legislature, and it was critical of the government, and somehow or other, it was removed from Hansard, from the minutes of the Legislative Assembly.
You might have a point. What I will do tomorrow, I will ask the Justice Department to look into it. I will send, I'm not sure who, a letter, but whoever's responsible in the justice area to investigate.
Well, hold on. There's a revolving door over at 450 Broadway. Justice this week is
Mr. Allen.
Yeah.
James Allen.
Oh, wait a second. So the same guy you sent a letter of complaint to that the record was altered when he was education minister would now be the Minister of Justice.
That's correct.
That you're saying you will approach about investigating whether this was, whether it's a criminal offense or some other kind of offense under the statutes, for altering a public record.
So he's been in tune on what's happening.
So he gets it, so he thought he was, maybe his people thought he was going to be clear of this, and now that may not be the case. Let's go back to the illustration board one more time, because this is what you said to Mr. Allen when you wrote him about this offensive behavior.
Yes.
FIPA is an excuse and a new reason to keep things a secret from the community, reporters, and concerned people. The Winnipeg School Division is not someone's private company. I'm requesting the Honourable Minister investigate the School Division's altering of public records to conceal and hide issues and facts. So you already asked him as Minister to investigate?
Yes.
You didn't hear back from Mr. Allen before he was moved out of the portfolio. I want to be fair.
Actually, Mr. Allen did schedule a meeting with the Board of Trustees right after the election. He made it publicly known through the meeting.
And that was in Dan Lett's column?
Yes, and that was on Thursday, November 6th. And on Monday, just prior to that, that's when
the cabinet shuffle happened?
Yes. So then Mr. Bjornson showed up in his place.
And Bjornson, instead of addressing this matter, proceeded to do what Bjornson does best, smile and shake hands and pat people on the top of the head.
He sat silent. There was nothing on the agenda, absolutely nothing on the agenda. When the meeting started, I asked Minister Bjornson, why are we here? He did say to meet each other. And then I said, okay, well, what are we going to do for the rest of the hour? And he said that he was actually following up on a meeting that was set up by the prior
minister.
That's right, Mr. Allen. And
Allen told Dan Lett that the purpose of that meeting was to make sure that the trustees I suppose aside from Mike Babinski and maybe a couple of others, understood that they can't do things behind closed doors, that they can't be presumably altering public records, that they have to be accountable to the taxpayers when they're discussing financial matters. And Bjornsson walks in like a marionette and doesn't know what he's supposed to be addressing with the.
Mr. Bjornsson did say that he was there because the meeting was scheduled and it was in regards the subject matter would be transparency. But after that, he didn't say anything.
Let's carry on with more of this.
In regards to transparency, the rest of the trustees didn't want to carry out the meeting. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to discuss transparency. They just wanted to discuss what we could do in the future. But they wanted to read that letter before they discussed anything furthermore. They said that I was hijacking the.
I want to get to that. Okay, let's turn the page. Yeah. Back to the illustration board. And was there? You must be thrilled to meet Cash Cow. Was there ever a better illustration for one of the topics or stories that we cover here on City Circus than today, the school division, Winnipeg School Division #1, and Cash Cow and you poor taxpayers? Babinski remains a rebellion of one. This is a Nick Martin blog story. And you went back and forth with Nick. You railed at him, not about his work, but about what was going on, in particular this meeting with Mr. Bjornsson. Multiple trustees asked what letter said Babinski. The administration had not acceded to his wishes to place the letter on the agenda. And then the board chair, Mark Waslu, said, Mike tried to hijack the meeting. We only get an hour with the minister. His view is distorted. He wanted to tell on the principal to the administration. He somehow seems to want the minister to do something. I want you to address that the board chair thinks that a trustee who detects wrongdoing and the potential for physical harm to come to the students should not be asking the minister to intervene.
Well, the minister was there to begin with because of the letter that I wrote. That's why the meeting was set up there in regards to discuss transparency. And so I don't know how I could have been hijacking this meeting. I believe the other trustees wanted to sweep it under the rug and not talk about it, and therefore keep the minister away from any bad type of comments or discussion.
In other words, they didn't want Bjornsson to follow up on Allen's, not just James Allen's outrage, but Nancy Allen had also expressed outrage about the conduct of the Winnipeg School Division. I should mention, not all the trustees, the majority clique that had controlled the board.
Yes.
Okay. Now we go back to the illustration board. We're trying to tell Mike it's a new board with no preconceived notions of how things happen. In other words, the new trustees are all clued out, which is just what you want. A bunch of people elected to a school board that don't know what's gone on. He's chasing headlines. He doesn't seem to be in search of a solution. He's too busy throwing rotten eggs at people to get anything done. Now, I would have thought that a lawyer would have used different language to discuss a colleague in an elected board. But I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this allegation that you're pitching rotten eggs at people.
No, they wanted to know what happened. So I asked the chair to set up a time for all the new people so they could come in and they could get tuned in on what happened in the last year. All these different incidents, provide them with a letter and everything. The chair, to this day, has still not scheduled that meeting. None of the trustees wanted to schedule it. There's been no attempt. So just a few days ago, on Monday, November 17th, I made another notice of motion that on the 1st of December, I will provide all the documents in regards to all this information, how the kids were freezing, the buses, taking kids one way for an hour and a half, the motions that were never carried out, motions, minutes that were buried. I'd like to bring them all up to speed, and I'm going to provide a document. That's the only way I can provide this document, is if I bring it forward to the board as a motion, and if they'll accept it. Now, whether they read it and decide to tune in on what's happening, or whether they throw it in the garbage, it's totally up to them. But it will be a public document presented at the board on Monday, the 1st of December.
Okay, now, going back to this Nick Martin blog post, Wazilu said the new board is serious about opening up its meetings and business to the public. School trustees are cut off from the public. If it wasn't for you and CBC Radio, there's no coverage of school boards in Manitoba. Hey, Mark, guess what? That's the way they want it, is no coverage.
That's right.
They've thwarted reporting for how long?
Yes.
With their conduct?
Yes. I've had many complaints from the media where they want me to actually send them the agenda prior to the meeting because they don't get it till, 9, 10, 11 o'clock or noon the day of the event.
Yeah, on the which is like the Monday or something.
And it's too late for them to prepare anything for the meeting.
Now, there's another comment from the board chair I want to give you an opportunity to discuss. There's a bit of a culture of secrecy at WSD, partly as a reaction to Mike.
Oh, I see.
You didn't know this one.
Right. No,
it's your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault.
It's your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. I think the secrecy is there because there's a lot of agendas that are trying to get pushed through, and they try and push them through the way minutes are worded.
Like the word changes, which I got some documentation prior to this program that I'm going to be reviewing in the next segment with after we're done with the interview with you about some of the way things are maneuvered on this board. I want to address this. Lisa, the other controversy was you were censured.
Yes.
Which hand did they slap you on, the right or the left?
Oh, they slapped me.
Yeah, they slapped you good. Yeah. And this because you had taken issue with an email that had been sent out by a new trustee, Lisa Naylor.
Yes.
Lisa Naylor's email said, and this is in Nick Martin's blog post, so I'm not breaching anybody's privacy here because it's already out there.
Right.
I would like to remind the board that newspaper articles, while interesting and having the potential to influence members of our community, are not fact and do not necessarily represent a balanced, objective view of events. Nick Martin then saying, well, she only criticized print, leaves one to wonder, is she suggesting mistrust us, meaning him, and believe everything else in the media, which would include TV, online, well, TV, I guess me, online, which I guess would be me. It would be nice if Lisa Naylor said that you people should trust me, but I don't think that that would be exactly where she's coming from with this. What is her problem that she runs for election to represent the public, knows that there has to be media scrutiny as part of the checks and balances in the system, and then complains to the other trustees in a supposedly private email, well, you can't really get too engaged with this transparency business because the media might actually, I don't know, tell the truth.
Right.
What was that about?
I think the people in my community and your community and the people out there, they need to know what's going on. The media plays an important part by delivering that information to the parents, to the people that live in our communities.
It's the employees of the division.
And not being and keeping them out or not wanting them to take this information out to the people that live in our communities becomes a problem because people are winding up doing what they want, and it might not be to the best interest of our children.
I want to very quickly wrap up with a couple of questions with regards to the ward changes. Yeah. The change from the 3 trustees in 3 wards to single trustees, such as
I
yourself,
disagree with
in 9
that.
wards.
Yeah.
You put forward a motion to postpone the deadline so the public would have more time to give feedback on this. This goes back to 2013.
Yes.
That motion was defeated.
That's correct. And I asked for a recorded vote as well.
And there was you made a motion then for an independent review of the new boundaries that were being proposed.
Right.
And that was also defeated.
Yes. Yes.
And which trustees, not necessarily by name, but can you describe to my audience how the vote split up in terms of who was in favor of giving the public a chance to speak out, more time to speak out, and in favor of an independent review, and which trustees were not in favor of transparency and accountability when it came to changing the electoral system for the school division?
Well, I mean, it was a 6-3 vote, and it passed. And the 2 trustees that are incumbents this time voted to push it through quickly. And
as well as 4 that are no longer there.
That's correct.
And would it be safe to say that they were all members, as we understand it, of the NDP?
Yes, that's true. They were. And I think, there's going to be problems. There are problems right now in regards to the new ward.
Okay, and I just want to get to this illustration. I realize I'm a little over time here, guys, but just hang on. They've changed the ward boundaries, and I'm going to go into that in another segment. There are some trustees, I understand it, that because of, they represent an area, say, south of Portage Avenue or this or that, where they represent an area that has maybe 4 or 6 or 7 schools.
Yes, that's correct.
How many schools do you have in your ward that you have to represent those children, their parents, those taxpayers and their interests?
I have 16 schools.
16 schools to handle, and other trustees in their areas only have 4 or 5 or 6?
That's correct. So I'll have more schools in my area than 3 trustees put together. I'll have more schools, I'll have to do more work, and I don't mind. I'm used to working hard and helping people, and there are a lot of people that call me from other wards that look for support because the trustee in their area may not be returning their call. So I have to help those people out as well, and I've done that many times on different issues. The South End, when they wanted to do staggered time slots for pickup of kids in the mornings, the trustees in the South End were not returning the calls, and I had a flurry of people, 25 parents call me. So, but it wasn't well thought out, where one trustee may have 4 schools, another one has 5, and a third one has 6, and then the next one has 16. So it wasn't thought out. Also, the boundaries. So you may be in an elementary school, say a block or 2 off of McPhillips, and then you move on to the high school, say Andrew Minarski.
Sure.
And that's a different area.
So you have a situation where children are attending schools and the trustee for where their parents live does not have that school under their jurisdiction in the ward.
So that's right. So if you need to complain, for a good one would be, say, Luxton School is a person that represents Elmwood High School. So, but kids that go to Luxton would then graduate and go to St. John's. Exactly. And that's my area.
It was mine when I was growing up.
But if the person representing them is not doing a good job, they can't vote him out.
And there's no pressure on that trustee to respond.
No, there isn't.
Because there's no vote in it for them to care about the concerns of that parent because they aren't a voter in that ward.
That's right.
And that was what was pushed through by the NDP trustees.
Yes. And before we had 3 trustees, I thought that was a way better system, because if you went to call one and they didn't return your call, you still had 2 more people that you could call. Now you only have 1. And if that person, you don't agree with them, or they don't agree with you, or they're out of town, then you don't have anybody else to call. There's many different reasons why the system is going to have problems. And it's not straight boundaries like they're not natural boundaries. They're gerrymandered to... Exactly. Instead of McPhillips being a boundary, it jogs, from Wigginton. Most people don't even know where Wigginton is.
Is that off mountain or something?
It's actually off of Inkster, right by Lansdowne School.
Right.
And then Battery, Sergeant jets out. Sergeant Tommy Prince.
Just to meet a certain desire to divide the number of votes equally between the wards.
That's right. Yes.
I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
Mike, you're welcome back on this program anytime.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much. We'll be back with a little more about the school division and this word changes, some information I've received in preparation for this program right after this break.
Hey boys and girls, have you been good this year? If so, Santa Claus wants to talk to you. We're going to be calling kids from the Ho Ho Hotline. Get your parents to sign you up at shawtvwinnipeg.com/ho-ho-ho. It's the Ho Ho Hotline.
Welcome back to City Circus. In preparation for doing a segment or a show about the Winnipeg School Division, I sent out some emails to people saying, if you have anything you think I should know about in terms of background. And I received a brown envelope the day before we filmed this program. And some of the material in the brown envelope was on the public record. I'm going to go through some of that today about the ward changes. Some of the material I got was not on the public record, and it will be by the time I'm done next week. This whole change to 9 wards from 3 was based on 149 survey results, 74 online and 75 paper feedback forms completed. I am told that the online forms were in no way secured or managed to ensure that somebody didn't repeatedly fill out the survey with the same answers to try to stack the results. Now keep in mind, you've got 9 wards, about 15,000 voters per ward. I'm just going to use some round math, say 150,000 voters. And somehow, 6 NDP school trustees thought that the ward system should be changed based on surveys done of 149, maybe, people, plus a few other groups, etc. 68% were individual responses, 30% represented parent councils, and some other anomalies in the responses. The breakdown, 48% preferred the existing 3-word scenario, 50% preferred the 9-word scenario, 2% chose neither options. Think of what this means. You have 149 results, half of which are not necessarily verifiable. The split is almost down the middle, but the trustees decided we're going to go for the change. You're going to figure out why with me in a second. Among the rationale for a 9-ward system, I pay particular attention to this, and this is on the website, by the way. It could provide opportunities for more representation from different minority ethnic groups and Aboriginal people in the community. I don't remember ever hearing that that's why the system was changed. Now, I have blown up from the public documents the timeline because the timeline tells the tale. Was a 9-ward process rigged? May 16, 2013, a group of residents submitted a petition. June 25th, before the summer, the trustees voted to constitute a ward boundaries committee and propose a map to be presented by and have feedback by Halloween of 2013. On September 23rd, they voted to hold a special meeting on October 28th. So the public and everybody else has 5 weeks notice tops that there's going to be a special meeting. On October 3rd, 400 copies were distributed to stakeholders. That would be parent councils, like what in my days, PTAs, etc. I have been told that principals were instructed to suppress the information, bury it at the bottom of a pile, whatever they're giving the parent councils, and only talk about this ward redistribution if they were asked. The notice of meeting was put out on October 7th to meet with the district advisory councils. Look at this. The South Advisory Committee, October 15th, Central, October 16th. They were given 1 week's notice to prepare material about a significant change in the voting rights of parents and taxpayers across the Winnebago and School Division. On October 23rd of 2013, the ads were pasted in the community papers like the Herald for the meeting being held on October 28th. The public had 5 days. What is this? They're ramming through a bike lane? And what did they hear from the advisory committees? The timelines create difficulty in exploring this. The decision should not be based on politics. The Central Committee, the timelines. Who are the 11 petitioners? The North District asked, who are the 10 voters putting forth the change? There's a lack of a communication process. Our complaint about the timelines. The Inner City District Committee complained about the timelines. It may result in one trustee becoming overwhelmed, as in Mike Babinski, having to represent all those schools. I'm going to next week go into who some of these proponents of this change were, and some of the comments that the trustees heard but did not listen to when it came to making such a major change in your voting rights in the Winnipeg 1 School Division. What was the Winnipeg 1 School Division? And what's really behind it? Political control by the NDP. I guarantee you. You'll be shocked when I bring forward the kinds of people that were behind this kind of a change next week here on City Circus. Remember, you have the power.